What's up, everybody? Welcome to Funeral Nation episode 262. I'm Ryan Thogmartin. We have Jeff, the Funeral Commander Harbison, and then a special guest, the one and only Poul Lemasters. I don't even know if we can call you a guest. You've been on this show so many times. You are our any questions we have that revolve anything legal, you're the freaking guy that we call. So introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, good to be here again. Just Paul. That's all it is. Just Paul. Just happen to have a little death care background and be a lawyer. No big deal.
Yeah, and you are the CYA guy. Let's plug your book and CYA real quick. Go for it.
All right, why not? Yeah, I literally wrote the book on Cover Your Ass, and the media, including Amazon, will even let you call it Cover Your Ass. So we've been pushing it out there. It's all for any business. If you've got a business, you have to CYA. So that's what I'm trying to teach the world. One A at a time.
I love it. I love it. All right, Paul. There are three big things happening at the federal level that impact death care right now. Can you give us a rundown of those three things, and then we'll pop into it?
Yeah. So in no particular order, we have the funeral rule, we have the new non-compete rule, and potentially a new junk fee rule. And those are all kind of up for grabs right now.
Okay, let's start with the junk fee rule. What is this? This is a new one.
It is. So this is new. It's not geared at death care. It is. So first of all, junk fees. We've all gone down this road, right? You buy a concert ticket and for, $75, and then you get the price and it's 112. And you're like, what's well, all those hidden fees that you didn't see when you bought the ticket, the government has coined those junk fees. Hotels, concert tickets, banks, utility companies, they're everywhere. So they have proposed a rule that would basically get rid of them. I mean, you would have to disclose all prices before you ever had to buy anything. This is written broadly. The way this is written right now, this rule says this would apply to any business in the United States that sells either goods or services. That's pretty broad. I feel like they're grabbing everybody under that umbrella. That's about as wide an umbrella as you can get. So, what's funny about it is there are a lot of people that are like, "Oh my gosh, what about death care?" So, actually, the way they wrote the junk fee rule, they actually reference the funeral rule. And they basically say the junk fee rule was just another kind of broader version of part of the funeral rule. The funeral rule was exactly written so that there'd be no hidden fees to anybody. So I always laugh I don't laugh, all right, but this is kind of ironic because everybody else in our profession, the number one argument we get is nobody else has to do this. Nobody else has to explain all their prices. Congratulations, death care. We have complained enough, and now they're going to throw an umbrella and cast a net over every business in the country. If the junk fee rule goes, you will have to disclose all your prices. Now, this doesn't say you have to put them online or hand out a price list, but you will not be able to have a contract signed unless all the prices are given to the consumer ahead of time. What does it mean? We don't know. It's in the early stages.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, as a consumer, I'm kind of like, oh, that's awesome. But I also see where it could be. I mean, although I think this kind of goes back to many conversations that we've had with you on here. If we're just like, transparency is always going to win. If we just are transparent, then it just makes it better for everybody. So
number one rule for CYA, just be transparent. And the problem with this rule right now is that consumers, the government, everybody's like, yeah, why wouldn't we have this? Like, why should there be allowed junk fees? This should be a no-brainer, and that's the problem. And it's the devil's in the details, right? It sounds good on paper. How will they implement it? What will
Yeah.
businesses have to do to do? I mean, that's what we don't know, and that's always a scary part.
Okay. All right. Well, there's one off the list. Let's
Junk
go
fees.
to non-competes, because this has pretty big implication on death care just from some conversations that we've had offline.
Yeah.
Break this one down for us.
So this is another crazy. It's not that it's a crazy rule. The broadness of it is crazy, because this isn't like, okay, starting on January 1st, 2024, no more non-competes. No, this is a retroactive rule, and basically, if it goes into effect, any and all non-competes that could be entered into or have been entered into are void. They're
Wow.
done. They're gone. Now, for death care, there's a few sides of this. If you're an owner, and you've got salespeople or you've got employees, or that's one thing. And for the rule, it's pretty clear those will be gone. You won't be allowed to do that anymore. What I see in death care is the scarier part is death care has a very special heritage legacy with names. So if I buy Thogmartin Funeral Home, I'm buying it because it's got your name on it. That's what's
Mm-hmm.
going to allow me to keep the business running. Now, under the rule, proposed non-compete rule, they're going to have a carve out that says if the owner is selling a business, you can have a non-compete on that owner so long as they own 25% or more. So, all right, perfect world. Ryan's the only owner. I can get a non-compete on him. And everyone's like, oh, okay, that's great. Here's why it's not great. I know Ryan's got 2 kids. He's got 2 daughters. And guess what? They got the same last name. And let's just say I write a check for Ryan. Ryan, I'm not writing you a check right now, but let's write a check for $5 million for Thogmartin Funeral Home. And then he's like, this is great. I got a non-compete on him. And then all of a sudden he goes to his daughters, hey, I have $5 million. You two should go open a
Yeah.
funeral home down the street. I get all the money in the world to pay for it. That could happen. And that is scary. And what it's going to
Yeah.
do is drive the value of that heritage and goodwill down. Arguably could go to zero, because why would I want to spend any money on your funeral home if I know your rest of your family can do it? Not only can your family go open up, this does it. We can't put it on key employees. We can't put it on managers. So there's a real problem here. People spend their lives to build the name of their brand, and if they can't lock it down, because they would want to, like you would be like, look, I want to lock it down. I want the full 5 million. So that's kind of the scary part right now. We're kind of on a wait and see. I think everything's. I think we're waiting till about April of 24 to hear what the next move is on non-compete rule. But it's a
Okay.
scary one.
It is a scary one. All right. Well, I'm glad that. Yeah. That's that's a lot to unpack. So
It is.
we'll revisit back in April when you know more, and we can go a little bit
Deal.
deeper. All right, the FTC. I feel like this is the never-ending
Oh,
conversation that's been going on for it's. What was that? The lamb chop sing along. It's the song that doesn't end. I feel like that is the FTC. So go give us what's new. What's new with this?
and you're right. It just never ends. I do think we are going to see something come to fruition. I actually was in DC not long ago, had a face to face with FTC with some other folks. They have said that their hopes are to have something. The next steps probably first quarter of this year. Next steps mean it would probably be a proposed rule. So, we've gone through this thing where we filed comments. Then they did a fine tune and said, "Hey, we've got these 40 questions now, very specific," and we answered those. Then they narrowed it down. We had a workshop where they brought in industry experts, both consumer and from the profession, and narrowed it down to 5 topics. I mean, we know where they're headed, and I do think we're going to see something happen. Again, this is one of those topics where most consumers and most here's the thing, this isn't a Democrat or Republican, like Democrats are saying we need to update the rule, Republicans are saying not, because that happens a lot. Even the Republicans that were on the commission, they were like, oh yeah, of all the things, the funeral rule should be updated. Why aren't
Hmm.
prices online? And that's the biggest thing they want to do. They want these online prices. They want consumers to be able to shop. And, it's this transparency thing. Unfortunately, consumers and consumer groups did all these studies over the years, and some of them recent, where they tried to call funeral homes and say, how much are funerals? And they don't get clear answers. They ask them to email them. They don't give them emails. So the problem is that there is a hiccup, and it's a low number. I'm going to sit here and tell you over and over, it is a low number. The FTC doesn't care how low it is. It should be zero. And the fact that when somebody dies, a consumer could potentially have to physically go to more than one funeral home to get pricing. They know, the FTC and consumers know what's going to happen. One, they're not going to go and leave a funeral home. So that means they're going to either overpay or whatever. So they want this transparency, the veil to be lifted. Again, business side, I think you should be posting your prices online.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's get with it, right? There's no reason any good business should have all of their prices online. The problem, and what I hate and what we're not going to get over now, is now the government is going to tell us how to do it. And that's the scary part, because now you're going to be under the microscope and they're going to say, you have to put your pricing, it's got to be at the top of the page. It's got to be pricing available in 2 clicks. It's got to be this size font. It's got to be available in a PDF. It's got to be available by, HTML. I mean, it'll be a nightmare. And I
Mm.
think smaller businesses are going to suffer because of it. I don't think they're going to be able to. It's not that they won't be able to put their prices online. They won't be able to do it as well as the more sophisticated providers out there.
Well, I mean, I think too there could be some responsibility put with some of the website providers of how to easily do this as well. I think there are some technology ways to, regardless of the size of the business, to make it easy to get to. My question is though, like, do we know if this is going to be more than just listing the GPL? Because I mean, some states require a GPL link on their site now, but you could go load a GPL, but it's like 2017 and it's like just the non-declinables. It's not
Yeah.
everything. So do we know anything on the capacity of what that's going to look like?
No, we don't. What we're trying to do, we have I'll say a final pitch request from the FTC. I'm a believer that you get more. What is it? More flies with honey, bees with honey. I never understood the flies with honey, because why would you want flies? Like,
Yeah, no one wants flies.
nobody
That
and
doesn't
you
make
don't want
sense.
bees, but you get more of them with honey anyway. What I've talked to the FTC on numerous occasions, and this isn't new, we've talked about it for years, is instead of saying throwing down the gauntlet, which they can do, and saying tomorrow everybody shall this time forward post all their prices, full GPL, all that. I think that's strong. And
Hmm.
what we've argued is why don't you allow people to um, opt in. And in other words, give us a maximum and a minimum. The minimum is maybe kind of what you're saying. Maybe it's just a range of prices. It's just a few things. And that would at least allow consumers to know, oh, hey, I can afford this place, or, oh, they offer this and they offer that. However, for anybody that opts in and puts it all out there, on their own, not being forced, the FTC gives them a bit of a carrot, a little bit of a dangle of, if you do that, you now have a little, not extra protection, but if you make a mistake, if we shop you and you make a mistake, but your full prices are online, we're going to give you a second opportunity to correct that. And you
Hmm.
won't get hit right away with a $52,000 fine or having to be forced into FROP. Kind of this almost a safe harbor provision, we call it. And I argue that if you offer that, you will have so many people that'll opt in that everybody will be happy. And
Mm.
and then it gives people a little kind of like, well, I wasn't forced to do it, I'm choosing. And I think that would be a nice kind of middle ground for everybody.
Sure,
I like that.
and Paul, one of the issues I see is if you posted 10 GPLs one next to the other, I don't think the average consumer can tell you based on the information there, what a funeral is going to cost, simply because of the format and all the ins and outs and charging for this and doing for that. So, I mean, I don't think it's such a bad thing transparency wise. My uh, foresight into it is that the average consumer still isn't going to know how much a funeral is.
I agree. Actually, so this leads into kind of what I see as this, the unintended consequences. And I think one of the biggest ones that, and I have no idea what will happen if we put all the pricing online. I mean, we absolutely are going to commoditize funerals. And I don't know that the FTC or consumer groups care about that. What's going to happen, though, is as a provider, knowing that what you said, Jeff, they're not going to know the difference. So that means they're just going to go to the right side of the menu, right? They're going to look and see how much is it. If I'm getting dinner and I'm looking and I see a steak is $99 at this place, 49, 29 and 19 and whatever. I'm just going to say, all right, I feel like I'm going to spend $49 on a steak, and that's probably decent. How do you how do you basically show on a website your value? And to me, that's the $1 million
Mm.
question that businesses are going to have to figure out. It'll be a whole new game in
Yeah,
about a year. And that's why I say the small, less sophisticated providers, they won't be able to do that.
I see that. I see that. But
Right.
I also see the opportunity of, and I don't think I've said this on this show before, like one of the things we preach to our clients is being best known is better than being best, simply because everybody wants to be the best and believes that they're the best, and that's great. But the only way that somebody actually knows that you're the best is if they use your service. So being best known allows you to now be the best. And I think when it becomes a price game, it comes down to who's better known. What have you given me? What else have you given me on the website to educate me on who you are, what you do, how you do it better, to justify this is what you're getting for the price? I think funeral homes are going to have to get more creative in how they position themselves online, because they're going to have to be able to justify why they may be more expensive than somebody else, which, I mean, there's easy ways to do that. It just takes being best known and visible, and creating the right content
They're going to have
to
to be
do it.
very thorough. I agree with you,
Yeah.
and spend more equity, if you will, in explaining and actually being a more of a concierge for death in the community than just a provider.
Yeah.
Great points. Because the last thing I'll say about this is, the argument that a lot of people keep throwing out is, consumers don't shop for funerals online right now. And I don't disagree with the stat. The only thing I'll say is, being devil's advocate, is it possible they're not shopping online for funerals because it's really not available to
Yeah.
shop online for funerals? And
Yeah.
and whether I'm right or wrong about that, here's the thing. I do think that when this if, and I'm going to say if, it probably will happen. But when consumers now realize that they can find pricing online, I think we will see a shift in consumer habits, and they will start poking at it. Now, will they pick off of that? Who knows? Will it influence them? 100%. And that is where this, we're going to see it's going to be a difference in that consumer. And to your point, Ryan, Jeff, they're going to have businesses are going to have to be more thorough. They're going to have a better presence, not just on their website, but in the community, more than they've ever had to before.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, they
right.
may even have to explain why the basic service charge applies for burial consumers, but not for cremation consumers. I just said
Yeah.
that out loud, but anyway, that'll be a whole new spectrum for you there, Paul.
Yeah.
I
No,
love
it's
it.
going to be interesting.
Well, Paul, I have one more question that
Yeah.
I think is a positive on all of this. And you've been to DC with a bunch of other funeral professionals. I feel like this conversation is actually helping unite the profession as a collective. Do you get that sense?
I do. It's everybody knows that everybody's in business against each other, right? And that goes as far as, state associations, national associations, funeral homes, cemeteries across the board. But yeah, we were able to unite um, a lot of the largest providers, all of the national associations. And what we discovered is we were all really on the same page when it came to the changes. Everybody kind of had that same initial, don't really want to
Yeah.
see it change. However, it was going to change. We went through a list of, basically 15 points, and we agreed on all of those. So we've had a united voice. On this topic, which has been kind of great to see. And,
That's awesome.
hopefully we can continue to do that. I'll sit here and say it's not that it was too late. We've done this for years, but, maybe it'll carry over though into some other activities.
Be great. What's the timeline on all of this? Is there one?
Yeah. If you go back to everything, well, FTC, what they've said is probably by first quarter they'll take the next step. So if that played out, and let's say it was the end, it was March, that they have a proposed rule, that means we'd have probably 60 days to comment. So that's April, May. Then they could say it's final by anywhere from June to July, and then that means they could say we're going to give you 6 months to kind of get it together. So we could see this possibly all be done, wrapped up in the new rule by January 1st, 2025. So I think there's a year. There's still some things that have to happen. Nothing's going to nothing's quick. So, and that's barring, anything else. And, there's a lot of stuff that could happen in between. We got an election that might come right at the end. I do think that they're going to try, they being the FTC and the powers that be, I think they could try to get something like this through next year while they kind of, not that they have control, but they just have an easier time with it.
Sure. Okay. Well, Paul, it is always a pleasure and an honor to have you on the Funeral Nation show. Man, you always bring the goods. Thank you for your transparency and all your time breaking this stuff down for us. And if anybody's got funeral homes have questions, they're trying to navigate all of this, how can they connect with you? And we do have a broader audience sometimes that watches this outside of death care, and you're not just a death care guy. So
nope, I try to CYA every business out there. So yeah, just Paul at lemastersconsulting.com, Poul, not a typo, just a crazy fun family from Denmark.
Just the right way to spell it. I mean, that's it. Everybody else is wrong. So.
That's what I tell them.
All right, Paul. Thank you so much, sir.
Paul, thank you, sir.
Hey, Jeff, Ryan, thanks for having me once again. Have good holidays, all that stuff. Appreciate being here.
Thank you.
You too, friend. Thank you
for
your
everybody.
work.
Until next time, out here.
Out here.
Have a great effing week.